Welcome to the Nigerian Television Authority, a special program today. Now, news filtered in on Sunday, the 13th of July, that Nigeria's former president, Muhammadu Buhari, had died at the age of 82 due to illness. Muhammadu Buhari served the nation for the majority of his lifetime as a soldier and a politician. He was military head of state from December 31, 1983 to August 1985. He returned as helmsman of the nation when he was elected president in 2015 and returned by Nigerians for a second term in 2019 presidential elections. In a career which included the helmsman's position in Northeastern State in 1975, Governor of Borno State 1976, Federal Commissioner for Petroleum and Natural Resources between 1976 and 1978, and Chairman Petroleum Trust Fund (PTF) in the mid to late 90s. Muhammadu Buhari built a reputation of consistency, frugality, moral discipline, and uprightness. Many will remember his words on assumption of office in 2015. "I belong to everybody, I belong to nobody. Now he is no more." Today, the 15th of July 2025, has been declared a public holiday by the federal government to enable the nation give the former leader a befitting farewell. The Nigerian Television Authority, for the next few hours, will bring to you key materials defining the man, his military and political legacies, distilling lessons for today and nuggets for tomorrow. I am Fisayo Ogunfuyi. Welcome to a special coverage of a farewell to a general and gentleman. I'll be discussing so many things concerning the man, the state of the nation in terms of our political uprightness and moral discipline, and the legacies of the man himself, with a panel and correspondents across Nigeria talking to eminent statesmen, talking about his life and times and what we can perhaps build on as far as the nation is concerned. We had that as part of the celebration or funeral of general farewell, because it's a celebration of life as well. We had a Vice President, Kashim Shettima, has departed London for Nigeria in company of some family members of the late former President Muhammadu Buhari, as directed by President Bola Tinubu. A statement by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Communications, Office of the Vice President, Stanley Nkwacha, says that they are accompanying the remains of the late former president for burial in Daura, Katsina State later today. Other members of the federal government's delegation have also departed London for Nigeria. We will also be giving you, list of attendees as well as commentaries on his leadership. So we will first introduce our panel of guests who will be talking to us about, his legacies, lives and times, and what today's politicians can as well also take from the person of President Muhammadu Buhari, also a major general. He was a military ruler and, of course, also a civilian president. Dr. Sanusi Ohiare, former executive director, Rural Electrification Agency. He was the youngest appointee by the Pmb'S administration. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And we have Dr. Kuride Martins, a development expert. He's been with us since morning to talk about, President Buhari's legacies. Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
And also someone who has been on the sidelines watching President Buhari, as well as other presidents as well, for Ben TV, is First of Ife, regional news editor for Ben Television, of course, London. You've been in Nigeria for a while, and of course, you are also in a great position to talk about the former president as well. And of course, we'll be having guests join us via Zoom. Once they are on, we will introduce them as well. So, gentlemen, let's start, with you. Being a reporter, it's a sober time for Nigerians in general. Like I said earlier in the introduction, today is a public holiday to perhaps not only honor, the former president, but perhaps also reflect on his life and times, and also, the destination of state and his stewardship as well. As your opening salvo, what would you want to say about the departed leader?
Thank you very much, Fisayo. I would say, with the job, it's a privilege to have covered President Buhari in his second coming, leading the country. And for those of us in the State House that covered him while he was leading the country. When we got the news, it was mixed feeling, as it were. For some of us, the few times we interact with him, he himself would not be surprised that he is no more. Because when you hear him talk, he will always let you know that we are here to do our bit. And if it is time for us to go, we will go, and we don't have to question it. So we saw a lot of our colleagues having to talk about one funny moment we had. And for us, we felt, let me use the word, we felt really respected. Because on assumption of office as the president, as the civilian president, the first set of people he met with were the State House correspondents, the journalists that were covering the State House, and he had a handshake with every one of us when he came in. So on the day we got the news, everybody was just posting the jokes and some of the things he was talking about on that first day. So it's really a sad moment for us. But if we were to look at it from the eyes of President Buhari, the way we refer to him, misfeeling is here and there, because this is what I believe. I don't think he is surprised that he's no more. None of us will live forever, and he was always conscious of that. So whenever he has opportunity to make a difference, he will always tell you that while we are here, let's do what we can do to make life better for Nigerians.
Dr. Corey Martins.
Yes. Condolences to the Buhari family, Daura, Katsina State, fellow Nigerians, and indeed citizens of the entire world, because we have lost a gem, a perfect example of an officer and a gentleman, a Democrat, a soldier, an administrator. On Father's Day recently, I received a message from my first daughter, who is 33 years old. She said, "Daddy, thank you for the discipline you've instilled in me. It has guided me to be successful on all fronts, in all fronts." And this is a hindsight to how I have been following the trend of the President Muhammadu Buhari since I was in secondary school as a teenager, looking at his persona, the disciplinarian that he has been, a man of high integrity, someone who will just give nothing to allowing whatever it is that is negative to occur under his watch. As a young soldier in the military, he started as a teenager and then rose through the ranks as an officer, became the senior ranks. He held sway based on your confirmed intro in various military formations. We'll look at what he did at the time when he was a military commander in the northeastern part of Nigeria, to which he stood stoutly against insecurity and chased them even beyond the shores of Nigeria. There were challenges. People said, "Why didn't you inform the executive president at the time?" He said, "Mr. President approved for me to be here as commander. For the first day, he had gotten his permission to do this. So I don't have to go to Lagos and say this." So that was somebody who actually was astute in the area of ensuring that security of Nigeria was his concern. Fast forward a little bit, after his good governance as a military head of state, to which he introduced quite a number of programs. The war against indiscipline was there that guided us.
We will enter into this because there's enough time. There's enough time. Well, I just thank you very much for your opening, Sir Ovo. You were saying a man now is a young man. He was even much younger when he was appointed. I want to believe 31, 32, when he was, given his appointment by President Muhammadu Buhari as executive director in the Rural Electrification Agency. What would you want to say? For instance, what was your interaction like? First, interaction with the president at the time.
Thank you very much, Fisayo. Let me start by joining millions of Nigerians, both home and abroad, in commiserating with the family of President Muhammadu Buhari and the entire Nigerians for his death, for the loss of a patriot. It's a sad one, and on a personal note, it's quite emotional for me because this is a man that I regard as a father, a mentor, and I've looked up to, all my life. He's also, incidentally, the one that gave me the opportunity, my first opportunity into public service, when he appointed me, rightly I should say, at 32 as the executive director Rural Electrification Fund under the Rural Electrification Agency. This was somebody that didn't know me before then. So it was maybe close to 2 years after the appointment that I got a chance to sit with him, for dinner. And we sat just next to each other. And that was when I now got the opportunity to thank him for giving me the opportunity to serve, even without knowing me. So that tells you a lot about the kind of person, he is. He only needs to look at your CV, look at your qualification, look at your capacities, experience, what have you done in the past that warrants you to get that job. And he doesn't care whether you are young or old. If he believes that you have the capacity to do the job, he gives it to you. And I just told him thank you. And all he said was, you've been given an opportunity amongst millions of Nigerians that do not have this opportunity. It's an opportunity for public service. You should utilize it judiciously and ensure that you do not disappoint us.
I hope you did not.
I didn't.
So let's continue on this discussion as Nigeria bids farewell to one of its influential leaders. The legacy of former President Muhammadu Buhari sparks a national reflection. From military barracks to democratic ballots, his journey was as complex as the country he served. In this special report by Aman Jabani, we examine the highs and lows and the enduring questions surrounding his time in power.
Of APC, having satisfied the requirements of the law and scored the highest number of votes, is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected.
Buhari, do solemnly swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And that
This was in May 2015 when the late President Muhammadu Buhari was inaugurated as the elected President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He defeated the incumbent leader, President Goodluck Jonathan. He assumed office during a period of global economic instability with the Nigerian economy in recession. However, 2 years into his administration, the economy began to stabilize and infrastructure development started to take shape. His first notable achievement was in the area of security. President Muhammadu Buhari's leadership ensured improved security and the protection of lives and property in the Federal Capital Territory and many other parts of the country.
When he came, the security was top in his agenda. That time, nobody goes to church and mosques, at least expect to finish that service alive. But when he came, he contained that situation. He did his best in that area, and his best was good enough.
Hitherto, all the major roads to Borno State are closed, inaccessible, with the exception of the Maiduguri-Kano road. Sporadic bombings and killings even within the metropolitan city. Close to about 20 local government areas were displaced.
The Buhari administration prioritized agriculture and introduced the policy of produce what we eat and eat what we produced. He launched the Anko Borrowers program, which significantly boosted the production of rice and maize across the country.
All courtesy of President Muhammadu Buhari and the CBN governor.
as a country, our desire to produce what we eat and consume what we produce is not limited to the literal meaning.
In the area of infrastructure, his administration embarked on transformative projects across transportation, energy, water, and education, leaving a legacy of significant development, from modernized railway to critical road network and power projects. The completion of Lagos-Ibadan Railway, Abuja-Kaduna Railway, and Warri-Itakpe Railway revolutionized Nigeria's railway infrastructure, enhancing connectivity and economic growth.
The other thing we've completed, which looked like an albatross to the Ministry of Transport, was the Itakpe Warri rail line. which again we have completed. Commercial activities have commenced. In fact, that's gotten more review than any other one, because the young people who are there are saying that to get to Abuja now, it came down from 20-something thousand that they used to pay to 6,000.
The goal is simple. We will develop quality infrastructure that will bring prosperity to millions of Nigerians in both urban and rural areas.
The Lekki Deep Sea Port stand out as a major milestone and a game changer for maritime trade, while the second Niger Bridge was developed from foundation to completion. These projects, along with ongoing initiatives like the Kano-Maradi Railway, underscores Buhari's administration commitment to modernizing Nigeria's transport system. In energy sector, his administration made strides towards addressing Nigeria's persistent power challenges. In the energy sector, the Zengero hydroelectric power project at 95% completion promises to boost the national grid. The fully completed Aba Independent Power Project serves as a model for decentralized power solutions. The Energizing Education Program provided independent power plants to institutions such as Nnamdi Azikiwe University, significantly improving learning environment through stabilized electricity and upgrade infrastructure. The Buhari administration also invested in water and irrigation to boost agriculture and rural livelihoods. In 2021, 12 dams were completed and 96,000 hectares of irrigation land were developed, enhancing food security. Projects like the Hadeja River Valley and Azore irrigation schemes provided improved agricultural output in northern Nigeria. Through the partnership of expanded water, sanitation and hygiene, 926 rural water supply schemes were delivered across 21 states. The Clean Energy Campaign achieved open defecation-free status in 71 local government areas, significantly improving sanitation and public health. The aviation sector witnessed significant upgrades, including the construction of new airport terminals in Lagos, Kano, Enugu, and Port Harcourt. These airports were also designated as special economic zones to attract investment. The Nigerian College of Aviation Technology was equipped with a Boeing 737 full motion flight simulator and fully automated firefighter training simulator, positioning Nigeria as a regional leader in aviation training. The late president successfully completed 8 years in office and retired to his hometown in Daura in Katsina State.
If you go to Daura where he lives, it's still a common house. He agreed to live a life of simple. So he's always consummating, discussing with the common people. So he's an idol. The level of his integrity cannot be measured, cannot be quantified.
But he's a very, very thorough leader. There are so many adjectives you can use to describe Buhari, but truly, he is a leader whose time has come, and he has led this country very, very well.
His iconic words, "I belong to everybody and I belong to nobody," will continue to resonate in the minds of many Nigerians. Hamad Jabani, NTA News.
Thank you, Aman, for that. Earlier, First Lady Senator Oluremi Tinubu departed Abuja for Daura ahead of President Bola Tinubu, who is also due for Daura imminently. But to get a sense of what is happening in Daura, his hometown, where we'll be laid to rest, my colleague Abdullahi Mustafa has been standing by for a while to give us an ambience of what Daura looks like at the moment. Abdullahi.
Thank you, Fisayo. Daura, since 2 days ago, since Sunday, has been in a state of mourning. Let me give you an example this morning. As we are coming to this place, behind me is the Daura helipad where the former president and other VIPs used to land from Katsina while coming for any important or home visit by the former president or any other person. An ordinary woman who was selling akara or kosei, as it is said, she said, we are interacting with her. She said she couldn't come out for the past 2 days. She has been devastated by the news of the passing of the father to the people of Daura, who they said remained humble. He remained the Muhammadu they knew him since his youthful age, and even becoming the president. And for him to come and stay with them, actually, Daura is not business as usual, so to say. And for today, it's all about preparations. Everybody is just waiting to see the remains arriving at the city of Daura for the funeral prayers. And behind me, inside this helipad, is where, because during my last report on News at 10, it was earlier agreed that an open space here be used for the funeral prayers. But now, after some consultations among security agencies, it was again resolved that the helipad will be used for the funeral prayers, though not as big as this space, but they feel there will be more control of crowd in view of the eminent personalities that are coming, including the President, Commander-in-Chief Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And this place is 250 meters, about, so to say, away from the residence of the late Nigerian leader. And for now, some family members are there receiving visitors who are coming to condole with them. He has been a family man, and he remained in contact, in touch with his family and friends. His village is just close by here, close to Daura, and you can see them coming inside the house, as you might have seen yesterday on NTA Nationwide. Everybody was there, and now his cabinet members, I could see former Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, former President of the Senate, the 9th Senate, Ahmed Lawal, and many other ministers and members of the cabinet of the former president. They are all waiting for the arrival of the remains at the Katsina International Airport, where the military parade in honor of the former Commander-in-Chief will be performed at the airport before his remains is moved here to this place for the funeral prayers, which is to be led by the Chief Imam of Daura. As we were told, we don't know if there will be any other development there. But after our findings, we are told that the Chief Imam of Daura is the one to lead in the funeral prayers, and immediately after the prayers, the remains will be taken to his residence, which is a few meters away, for burial. He will be buried inside his Daura home. A section of the house will be used for the final rites. He will be laid to rest there. So far, this is what is going on here. Representatives of all security agencies, the Army, Air Force, the DSS, police, all they are here on ground working together to ensure that all security arrangements are in place, and it seems there is no any issue of concern regarding this. And as stated, the remains may arrive at noon. And from there, after the military activities at the airport, the convoy will move to Daura here for the final rites in honor of the late Nigerian leader, Muhammadu Buhari.
Thank you very much, Abdullah Mustafa in Katsina there by the helipad. We hope that you join us again when you have new information, especially when the remains arrive from London. Many thanks to Abdullah Mustafa. Just to tell our viewers as well that Comrade Issa Aremu has joined us via Zoom. We will be asking him some questions very shortly. But our State House correspondent, Musbah Dan Wahab, is also there in Daura. Musbah, where you are, just tell us a bit about what is happening. If you can hear me, State House correspondent Musbah Dan Wahab is right there. And in terms of some of the VIPs we are expecting and when the events will eventually begin, please, can we have your intervention this morning?
All right, Fisayo, just so you know, we are not in Daura yet. We're still in Abuja, the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, the presidential wing, of course, where we're expecting Mr. President to come. And, he will be departing for Katsina any moment from noon. That is what we expect. We are still at the presidential wing of the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport. And right from here, we're seeing the departure of the First Lady, Oluremi Tinubu, who left for Katsina ahead of Mr. President you just showed earlier. And of course, the Senate President, Godswill Fabio, has just also departed for Katsina in company of some other distinguished senators. And of course, Deputy Speaker, House of Representatives of Benjamin has also left. So we're still expecting some other dignitaries to leave from here. Already the federal government is deploying more than 20 members of the cabinet, the ministers, to go ahead of this funeral service that will be taking place today. And President Bola Tinubu is expected to lead that part. And of course, is going to receive the remains of the former president, like you have mentioned, at Katsina International Airport, after which we'll be proceeding to Daura for the final rites.
Thank you very much, Musba Danwahab, for that outlay. Standing by at the presidential wing of the Nnamdi Azikiwe Airport, will be in a good position to tell us exactly how the procession is going and eventually to the main event later today. Let me welcome again Comrade Isaremu, and we want you perhaps to put in a few words. Comrade, thank you for joining us this morning. Your first, words as far as this day is concerned, public holiday, to honor their departed former president. But what perhaps want to share with us your experience with him and the kind of man he was?
Well, good morning. I hope you are hearing me.
Yes. Yes, we can.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you, Comrade. Yes.
Excellent. Let me also join all of you to sympathize and express solidarity with ourselves, because we are all mourners, and I think we've lost a rare gem, a well-tested, accomplished statesman. I use this platform to convey my greetings of solidarity and sympathy to the chief mourner himself, and that's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who's our president, who's also a very close political associate of the late President Muhammad Buhari. I think President Bola Ahmed Tinubu spoke for all of us when he was in his statement. He was very unambiguous to say that we've lost a patriot, we've lost a man who led from the front. And most of the time he led during the turbulent times. That's the word used by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But above all, he led with quiet strength and profound integrity, an unshakable belief in Nigeria's potential. Again, I'm quoting the president. I think we can be on our own, but my quick take is that I think it's time for us to celebrate our leaders when they are alive. Because when you look at the outpouring of tributes, amazing evidence-based facts of his exemplary leadership, we'll be wondering, it will have been more beneficial to do this during one of the bad days of the late President Muhammad Buhari, so that he will be able to have, proper understanding of, of the way he had impacted, on Nigeria. But better late than never, we are here, as they say. Blessed are the dead, because they will no more be suspected. It's only we, the living, who will be able to explain what we have seen about him. But I want to bear witness here that President Muhammad Buhari led from the front. I've listened to all the comments, but we ignore the role he played during the COVID, in in 2019. He served on that very turbulent time. But the most important thing is that we ran into this storm of global pandemic, COVID. And President Buhari did not engage in denial, like, the first time of American President Donald Trump, who was doubting whether it was a virus or Chinese virus. President Buhari offered statesmanship. He didn't engage in denial, and he rather said he would lead so that we will not have that apocalyptic prediction for Africa. There was a story that Lagos will be littered with dead bodies. He set up the presidential committee, that was tackling the pandemic. And himself and his deputy, Professor Shibanje, they were the first to take the COVID vaccine. In fact, two of them took that vaccine twice. The first one, I guess, in March, 6th of March, 2020. And later on, they had the booster, COVID. Vaccine in December. And that inspired a lot of Nigerians to know that we can't afford to be COVID skeptics. All of us should take that vaccine. That's a lot of very courageous, because these were vaccines that are not yet tested. You also, for some of our co-panelists, you remember that even some high-fly, sports stars refused to take that COVID. You also know the Brazilian president, Bolsonaro, was also engaging in denial. And by the time they put their countries in ruin, more dead bodies, many people died in Brazil, in America of COVID. But if you look at the statistics of Nigerian performance, it's to the credit of President Muhammad Buhari that we recorded relatively low casualties, as anticipated. Once that Italian guy who came in with the virus, they quickly apprehended, there was a lockdown and massive campaign, social distancing, use your mask, wash your hands, I think President Buhari deserves posthumous, recognition for the role he played, in saving us from the disaster of COVID. Even though he also lost his chief of staff, to that, he went abroad. May so rest in peace. That's Abba Kyari, wonderful, statesman too, who I think he just came from Germany, and the victim of that unfortunate disaster. Then the second quick one I will take, this is my constituency, it's Labour, and we have a bag full of what I call evidence-based, record of performance in terms of how it impacted improving the lot of the working people. He improved on minimum wage from 18,000 he inherited from former President Goodluck Jonathan to 30,000. He did not hesitate to start up presidential committee to review the new minimum wage, the tripartite committee made up of government, state government on the one hand, employers of labor and organized, he also improved on pension, payment. He retained public jobs, but this is just my parting shot, but apparently you want to say something?
No, just land, sir, so that we can then...
Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, comrade. All right, sir.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, comrade. But it seems as if you are not hearing us. But once we, link up again, the audio issues then will
Okay, so what I'm saying here is that in spite of the COVID lockdown, he retained jobs. He did not engage in retrenchment. Public servants were paid as and when due. In fact, he gave support to private sector employers so that they could protect jobs. You also know that when he came here, almost 23 states couldn't pay salaries. He has to engage with CBN to give special grants and, readjust their debt profile so that they can meet the obligation of the working people. He was the first president to look at the faces of governors and ask them, how do you sleep? He was the first president to say that, how do you sleep without paying your workers? But he walked the talk, he gave the bailout, But maybe during the course of our discussion, I will also explain more some of the impacts he made.
All right, thank you so much, comrade. Thank you, comrade, for your first intervention. Yes, and you know, it has been quite enlightening. Now we hear that Vice President Kashim Shettima has departed London for Nigeria in company of some family members and late former President, for the remains of the late former President Muhammadu Buhari, as directed by President Bola Tinubu. A statement by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Communications Office of the Vice President, Stanley Nkwocha, says that they are accompanying the remains of the late former president for burial in Daura, Katsina State, later today. Other members of the government's delegation have also departed London for Nigeria. We have a correspondent who will talk to us from the Katsina airport. When he is ready, we will join him, but we are trying to establish links with our correspondent at the Katsina airport from where the remains will be received and from where they will proceed to Daura. That is Suleiman. Once he's on, we will join him as well. You heard from Comrade Aremu Dr. Cole Martins, who captured, in essence, some of the difficult periods that Nigeria experienced in terms of the global pandemic and the proactive, stoic, decisions that he had to take. You were just talking about the man himself as a disciplinarian. As a young man, I remembered war against indiscipline with some, trepidation at the time. But I also want to, say a word or two about, he had this stern persona that, some Nigerians were not particularly comfortable with in the democratic space when he was coming back, because in 1980, between December 83 and August 85, we had a military ruler who would not take the kind of the compromises that the political space was known for.
Would you rather let things go unchecked? Would you rather?
I was just talking about the young me.
Okay, the young you. I'm reacting to those who may not, obviously not feel comfortable, with his own way of life and the way he governed at the time. But there's a reality about life, to which I give a personal experience, which I'm enjoying till thy kingdom come. Discipline is that mantra that shapes a people, whether individually or as in a society or as a nation. Without discipline, you allow things that are not, that ought not to be permissible. You allow them to go, and things will go haywire. You will not be able to control them eventually. That was discipline with measure. War against the discipline. When Muhammadu Buhari, held sway as a military head of state, if you will not, you will think twice before you will, throw away the waste of your sweet chewing gum biscuits, as the case may be, on our highways, because you know that around the corner there's a military officer holding a koboko cordial. Prices were controlled. If you sold at the time above the controlled price, and information gets to the authorities within your locality, they will come to your shop with a bell, jingle the bell, sell your wares at the control price, the approved price, and your monies will be given to you. They'll walk away as deterrent to others. There was control. There was discipline. Those are periods where we knew that even if you stole money, at the time, you could be bargaining like 50, 100, even 200 years, in imprisonment as deterrent, Without such controls that had, molded persons like me, when I became a parent, to which I'm enjoying, today, a nation will not be able to get it right. So he was a man of stern discipline, and which guided him in everything that he has been doing. While he held sway as the chairman Petroleum Trust Fund, after that, we knew what he did, the achievements in terms of opening of new roads in Nigeria, infrastructures everywhere, all the hospitals and maternities and primary health cares in all the local governments in Nigeria. If you're a patient, you'll be given PTF free
Doctor, we'll come to you. Yes, we'll come back to you for that stint in PTF, then under the head of state Abuja. Let's quickly join Suleiman Konongi in Katsina at the Katsina airport. He has the governor who is one of the chief mourners next to the president, of course, talking about Governor Rada. Suleiman, if you can hear me, tell us what is happening. I can see that it's a little bit breezy at the airport.
Yes, we can hear studio live.
Go ahead, Suleiman, go ahead. We can hear you. Go ahead with your interview.
All right. Yeah, good morning once again. We're here live at the Umar Musa Yar'Adua International Airport here in Katsina, and alongside with us we have dignitaries, Governor of Katsina State, Umar Duko Rada, and that of Gombe, Umar Yunuaoda, all awaiting the arrival of the corpse of former President, late Muhammadu Buhari.
Go ahead, Mustafa. I thought you wanted to speak with some of the VIPs there about what they expect to unfold.
Yes, I'm here with the governor, Katsina State Governor.
So engage him. Go ahead, please.
Hello, sir. Good morning, Your Excellency.
Morning. How are you?
Nice to meet you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. We are right here at the airport receiving dignitaries who are coming for burial rites of the former President Muhammadu Buhari. So far, we have received number of ministers and number of governors. And we are here also to receive the Nigerian Prime Minister with his ministers. And we are also waiting the arrival of the Burkina Faso President, as well as the other dignitaries that are expected to be here. Speaker and the members of the National Assembly, Deputy Senate President, they were all here. And what we are doing at the moment is we are trying to put up all the logistics to ensure hitch-free exercise today. And we have spoken to those people. They have left London around 8:15 today, and we are expecting arrival of the corps in Katsina Airport around 2 p.m. And Mr. President is expected to arrive at the Katsina Airport as well around 1:30 p.m. So that he will give the last honor and respect for the former president and the late Muhammadu Buhari. So far, these are what we are doing, and these are the things that we are expecting at the moment.
Okay, sir, Your Excellency, sir, we also saw the arrival of the governor of Gombe. Are you expecting other of your colleagues to join?
Yes, my colleagues are already in the air, about 20 of them, who are coming to commensurate with us and also joining us in this funeral prayer for the repose of the late President Muhammadu Buhari. It's really very overwhelming, and we are not taking unaware because we know the caliber of person he is, and we know that President Muhammadu Buhari was a man of the people, both the masses, and he has extended a cordial relationship with the former presidents across Africa and across the world. So we should expect more than this.
Thank you, Your Excellency, sir. Yeah, back to the studio. Also live at the venue here is the parade. About to organize the parade as to pay a last respect to Mr. President, late President Umar Muhammad Buhari.
Thank you very much, Suleiman Konongi. Right on time to get you with the governor of the state talking about the preparations as far as today's program is concerned. They are going to be a little bit overwhelmed. They're talking about, the people in, Daura from Katsina to Daura. So many visitors today. The governor mentioned about 20 governors already in the air coming to Daura in terms of logistics and all that. That speaks to the stature of the man, talking about the president. And, maybe you want to say a word or two. That shows the stature and the respect he still has, even, in death.
And it's quite interesting how he has been able to sustain this stature that you speak about for over 3 decades since he has been in public office, especially since his first coming as the head of state. I only heard stories about the war against indiscipline that Doctor mentioned. I was probably just months in my mother's womb then when he ended his tenure as a military president. But then we heard a lot of stories about how he held sway as president, how he entrenched discipline, how he tried to bring about economic growth, development, and reorientation, and then how he lived a very simple life as president, humble, disciplined, without all the ego of being president. Just do the right things. You see what your correspondent in Daura said, a simple woman that sells akara. That's how the president is. He will probably have a word with her, crack a joke. I remember whenever I see him, he would always joke about my beard. Say, this your beard? Is it a religious one, or is it the one for fashion? There's nobody that has come in contact with him, that would not have something admirable, to say, about him. That's why you heard the governor saying, we have so many heads of state that are coming across the world. Governors, everybody wants to be there. I'm sure if everyone had opportunity, they would want to be there. But this also, we need to draw lessons as young people in public service, from his life. The president has been able to sustain himself all this while, all these decades in government, and he remained principled, he remained the same. Everybody says the same thing about him. He didn't need to dip his hand into public purse. He didn't need to live a flamboyant life. He didn't need to steal money to come and fund elections. He was in the military. He was the same. When he came into democracy as well, winning elections, he remained the same. And so God has just used him to show Nigerians that to truly be in public service, you really don't need to do something that you're not meant to do. You could still be yourself, hold on to your principles, and still serve your people to the best of your ability. And that's what I think the lessons from President Buhari is.
First, as you have been looking at the people making interventions with some interest, and from the reporter's perspective, perhaps you want to say a word about talking about your working relationship with the former president.
Yes, like my brother said, one thing about President Buhari, from our perspective, those of us that reported him, is whenever you come in contact with him, he will normally do what we call icebreaker. He will be the one to put you at ease. And he's very, very meticulous when it comes to things. You will be surprised that you have a particular wristwatch and you wear it anytime you meet with him. He won't say anything. The day you come with another wristwatch, he will just say, oh, Fisayo, how are you? Is it that the other wristwatch is bad? You'll be surprised that he could notice such a thing. And for his photographer, Bayo, sometimes he will say, Bayo, this is your color socks that you wear. What is it about? Is it fashion or what you people do these days? He was someone that he pays attention to everything. And whenever you hear him talk about governance, whenever you hear him talk about how things should be, you see him emptying himself. So most of the time, you enjoy him more as a journalist when he is not speaking to any document in his front. You just see him telling you, this is how it should be. And there was one particular case where in the Federal Executive Council, they were saying something about the former, his friend, Yaradua, the senior Yaradua. And that was the first time I saw him sober. He was talking and he said, oh, my friend. And he kept quiet for a while. And he ended it with Allah Akbar. That is, he was remembering a lot of things, how they went to school in London and some other things. The discipline part of him, anytime you hear him speak, he knew that this African mentality where we don't have respect for time, we don't have respect for agreements, that indiscipline was our major problem. So whenever he has the opportunity to correct it, he will always sound it that if only we can be disciplined, some of all these things will not be there. And any opportunity he has to sound that one out, he will always do it. And he believes so much. People have so many picture of him. Really, any president anyway, there is what it is the truth and there is what people feel you should do. A lot of people had so much expectation because they felt he's one man that did not have a godfather and he's one man that could correct a lot of things. But when you see him and he is talking, he will tell you this is how it should be done. He came one day and he was telling us, he said, thank you very much, that because of you, some of the visitors that come to me, they will have to think twice because they come. That I know that whenever they come, those of you that are journalists, you greet them very well. So anybody that does not have answers to your questions, they will not be coming here to talk to me because they know that you'll be somewhere there waiting for them to greet them. So he was a man, he was a man that was thorough, and whatever was brought to his attention, he would do it in such a way that you know that this man has done his own part. So we have missed someone, but like my brother said that even you said it, that you were not too comfortable with that his part where you have to do what, if we can be disciplined in so many things that we do as a country, Africa will not be where we are today. We notice that some of the things where you give instructions and nobody acts on it because the money that belongs to everybody belongs to nobody, as it were. So the way we handle governance, we don't handle our personal resources like that. So those are some of the things he ensured that it will be done and we get it rightly. So
I wasn't comfortable. I said our responses as children, those days I think I was just in primary school. I was about going to secondary school. There was even a jingle war against indiscipline, let us be orderly. But what you used to see was some stern-looking military men who had koboko.
It drives the message.
so you had that memory. That was. But I'm saying
so you have to queue for a tin of milk and some other things.
So you had. At the time, that he came back into politics, the idea of politics, at the time was,
anything goes.
Spending, a lot of spending and all that. And we knew that, yes, this would, be reduced, especially with the man driving the process. But moving on, you just spoke about, him in some of the moments where, you spoke to you unscripted. And then you could see, the essence of the man. Let's, invite our comrade Isaremu, into the conversation. I'm sure he's been listening. Comrade, in terms of, interacting with him, did he find, the democratic space better to operate in as against when he was there, in the first time as a, military leader who could, push through his ideas without too many, handshakes and backslapping and all that, and compromises before he could get, some of his ideas through. What did you get from the essence of the man?
Well, I think listening to your correspondence from Daura and those who are waiting to receive him, I think it is clear that just the way he overwhelmed, the nation with his selflessness, his commitment, his tenacity, so also there has been reciprocity on the part of Nigerians who have really come out in overwhelmingly, to posthumously honor him. And that tells you that contrary to the normal infighting within the elites, and now we're in the era of social media, is a lot of distortions of legacy. I think Nigerians are generally largely objective to know who really served them very well. And I think we have seen that being demonstrated now in recent time. Let me quickly give you one insight. I was in Nairobi for a conference when he was declared the winner. We had a conference. And then we were given a question to list 4 major events taking place in Africa at that time. The first round, we listed 4 events. Later, they zero down to 2. And the 2 events, number 1 was the declaration of President Muhammadu Buhari as the winner of that election in 2015. Then the second one was the inauguration of the first light train in Africa. That was in Ethiopia, Addis Ababa. And then we took another round of votes to say which was the most spectacular event. And President Buhari won the first position. And what was it? The consensus was that this was a man that's just been declared as a winner, has not been sworn in. But electricity improved in Nigeria. There are some people allegedly, trying to return some properties not belonging to them to money. They said, no, this is unprecedented. That
Right.
somebody just won election.
Comrade, just a moment, comrade. We just need to get to Daura very quickly. The presidential delegation is there to Katsina, the Katsina airport there, where the Minister of Information is speaking on behalf of the federal government delegation there.
Only moments ago, the arrival of the Prime Minister of Niger, together with a high-powered cabinet from Niger Republic. We have also seen the arrival of many state governors here. We have seen about 25 ministers as dispatched by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to come and witness this. We do hope that all the programs will get underway very shortly. We are waiting the arrival of the remains of the former president to arrive Katsina here. There will be a short ceremony here before onward movement to Daura, where he's going to be interred. All the ministers are here. Many of the state governors have come, like I said, and we do hope that we're going to have a very smooth event here in Katsina and also in Daura subsequently. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So we shall continue to give you updates as the events unfold here at the airport, sir. Thank you, studio.
All right, thank you very much, Suleiman Konongi at the Katsina airport. Sorry, apologies to our comrade Issa, who wanted to take in the arrival of some of the international guests as well as the presidential delegation to Katsina. Please, go ahead, sir.
Excellent. I mean, I'm also with you, spirit. I mean, my spirit is in Daura, even though I'm talking from Ilorin. I wish I could be on the ground, since believing. So I can understand the challenges you are facing. So I've raised that point to tell you how, he was such a man of integrity, that all of us participants drawn from Africa, we all agree that the major thing that happened, in 2015 was the election of President Bola President Bola Tinubu. President Buhari that we are honoring today. And that tells you the way it was duly appreciated. But now you ask a question about his attitude to issue of democracy. I think I agree with Professor Ibrahim Gambari, who was his chief of staff, who said as much that Buhari was a converted Democrat. And I bear witness to that. I mean, I spent greater part of my university days under military rule. And we had cause to confront military, my antecedent in the student movement, from Obasanjo, the military, down to Ibrahim Babangida, and of course, even before Ibrahim Babangida, we had the Buhari Diagma regime. I mean, it's definitely, these were appointed military leaders who, never pretended to respect basic democratic right. But it is to the eternal credit of the late President Buhari that he quickly became what Professor Gambari called converted Democrat. He says so in one of the interviews, and I followed him very well, in which he said there is not a global consensus. There is only one route to democratic process, and that's through elections. You must grant it to him that he dropped the khaki, he returned back to political process, He became a member of political parties, first, his first party, I think MPP, later on to CPC, of course, when they had the coalition, we had the ACN, which later metamorphosed to APC. It takes a lot of commitment, somebody to transform, from era of command system, in which you give orders, to that of a democratic process. You need to go by the majority opinion. You need to take everybody along, compromises, and it's a lesson. I think there must be case study of the way former President Buhari, could build partnership, with tested Democrats like President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who together they all moved from opposition to become a ruling party, in which they never lost their focus. Regardless of the platform, they pursue progressive politics, which is that you must build the wealth of a nation, but at the same time, you must be concerned about the plight of the masses, as the case may be. So I want to say that as a Democrat, he has really paid his due very well. Now, the last one I want to rub in on this, which we should not take for granted. It was President Muhammad Buhari who conclusively put an end to the June 12 saga by posthumously recognizing that Chief Moshood Abiola won that election, in 1993. Not only that, declaring June 12th as a Democracy Day. I mean, that was quite revolutionary, progressive. And I want to commend President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for building on that further, to even now declare officially that, I don't know how to do the numbering, but apparently, Moshood Abiola had become the number 4, as it were, 4th democratically elected president of Nigeria in terms of ranking, because by restoring his status that he actually won that election. But the real foundation was laid by former President Buhari. And coming from him, who had come from military tradition, in which annulment, cancellation of election, which characterized General Ibrahim Babangida, era, became a norm, for him to accept in a very humble manner. In fact, he gave an apology to Abiola's family. Nothing could be more humble, nothing could be more statesmanly, and I think history will record him. We can't but further honor him, for every year that we celebrate Democracy Day. Buhari, came out, solid and tall. And you could see the way he also ran his party's internal democracy. While he was a committed party member, he never tried to influence, who could be. His deputy ran for presidency. I can imagine President Obasanjo would have loved to impose him if he had his way. But he just, he would have wanted to impose his deputy. But if he had, Buhari just said, no, everybody go for the primaries. And we could see the outcome, the way it came in today. So all I want to say, I think the best honor we can do to, the fallen titan, the statesman, is to continue the trajectory of progressive politics. And I want to appreciate President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for keeping faith to that. Just like I said, on the labor record of Buhari, he raised minimum wage. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has also raised it further, from 30 to 70, in nominal terms, that's the highest so far we've ever had, in the history of minimum wage in Nigeria. He also retained jobs, despite the public revenue challenges. Both Buhari and Asiwaju refused the temptation of downsizing the workforce. In fact, on the contrary, two of them are employing more. I know a lot of jobs have been created in the last 2 years. The health ambassadors, almost about 1,000, like that president just approved them. You also see a lot of public employees that have been created with a lot of public institutions that are set in motion now. The Nigerian student loan funds and co. So celebrating Buhari, is celebrating progressive politics in Nigeria. And I think facts are there for us to put on the agenda. Lastly, and I think there's a consensus on that too, discipline. Buhari was, he kept to time, a man of very brief words, but maximum loaded policy initiatives. I look at his inaugural address. You go and fact check it. Less than 2,000. In fact, it's about 1,920 words. But loaded. That's where he made that famous remark, I belong to nobody, but I belong to all. He also disclosed how much was spent on power. During the previous administration of Obasanjo, I think we spent close to $28 billion with that power, and he regretted in his speech that we could hardly generate 4,000 megawatts. I saw my very good brother there, who was in primary school. President Buhari was military head of state, but who later became the head of the Rural Electrification Agency. Again, that showed the commitment of the president that, we should have different ways to address the issue of energy crisis. And I'm happy this present government is also addressing that. There cannot be industrialization without electrification. And that's where I also give credit to President Buhari. He was committed to reindustrializing Nigeria.
Thank you very much, comrade. Thank you very much, comrade. I don't want you to say lastly, because we'll still come to you to get more and more from you. Time is really there. We have enough time to celebrate the former president as well, and we have gentlemen in the studio as well, also raring to go as far as talking about the president is concerned. And as the discussion is going on, you can see live shots. You can see live shots from the international airport in Daura. You can see the international airport in Katsina and the helipad in Daura. You can see the arrival of the Lagos State and Ogun State governor there, just arriving the Katsina international airport as well. And of course, we can see the live shots from the helipad in Daura to see as the VIPs also arrive at the two venues. We also expecting members of the diplomatic corps as well as our foreign friends. We understand that a powerful delegation has already touched down from Niger, and we're still expecting from Burkina Faso and other countries in the ECOWAS as well as the African Union as well to pay their last respects. Let's come to Dr. Korede Martins very quickly. You heard from Comrade Isaremo talking about former President Muhammadu Buhari's frugality. He's been parsimonious with funds, being very simple in terms of his outlook to life, and not too overbearing in terms of his concentration on personal aggrandizement. In fact, he eschewed such perks of office. What can today's leaders at local government, state, and federal level take away from the life he led? He led those life. He led that life, and he's supposed to perhaps be an example, but perhaps it is not an example that has been followed by all.
Obviously, not by all, but one will expect that a majority will do so. Imagine somebody who was a commissioned military officer, took control of various formations, especially in the Northeast, and then later became the head of state military, became the PTF chairman, did a lot. He now was in Kaduna, where he lived. I was there in Kaduna at the time. Each time we'll have fuel scarcity. General Muhammadu Buhari retired vehicle would rather drive himself in his Mercedes-Benz with just one policeman beside him. He will take a queue amongst fellow Nigerians to purchase fuel. He will not come with a retinue of soldiers to guide and guard him, despite the fact that he was a retired general, as the case may be. This is a humility. This is taking a sense that I have not stolen your monies, Nigerians, so nothing will happen to me. And peradventure, anything does is the will of Almighty God Allah. So we need to learn from his life of humility. Somebody who was amiable as a gentleman, somebody who was humble in leadership, somebody who believed in what the policies and programs that he put to practice in Nigeria. And we can see a lot of examples are there to show physically. He believed in human development, human capital development, which brought about the establishment of the federal ministry as in charge of poverty alleviation and all that. As a leader, just as we have it in the corporate world and public service, you will establish, you will create, you will delegate responsibilities. But whatever those who've given authorities to do, whatever they do, on their own, becomes their responsibilities. And I dare say that posterity will judge each and every one of us.
Let's talk to one of his appointees, perhaps whether he was able to toe that line as well. In terms of supervision, in terms of reporting back, how was it like, under President Muhammadu Buhari? And did you, like Doctor said, did you take a cue from the president who led from the front and, did not, concentrate more on self-aggrandizement?
There's something very interesting and passionate about how I was appointed and how other young people under Buhari were appointed as well. He didn't know us from anywhere, and he gave us very critical assignments and roles, and then he asks us to just go and deliver. So he's the type of president that before he appoints you, he looks at your credentials, he looks at your capacity, and he believes that you can deliver. And when he gives you your job, he doesn't micromanage you. But then, of course, unless you do something untoward, before he would look at your case. But he believes you know how to do the job, and he has given you the job. Doctor earlier mentioned that, when he was in Northeast, someone asked him to report to the president. I'm like, he's in charge. So the president believes in him. That's why he gave him the job to do. So he was of that conviction. So he gave us the confidence to fly with our innovations and ideas on how we could transform. And he gave us that backing. He said, you guys are young, you can fly, right? Come up with the ideas and implement. And whenever we wrote to him that we feel this is the way we need to go, we need his approval, he didn't waste time in approving. That's why you see we're able to make a lot of progress, especially with the off-grid space of renewable energy deployment and decentralization of the grid in Nigeria. It was during that time that he approved the Rural Electrification Strategy and Implementation Plan. It was during that time that I, as the pioneer of the Rural Electrification Fund under REA, were able to operationalize the fund. Before then, we had a hiatus of about 10 years, since 2005, between 2005 and 2017. That's 12 years, where the fund was laying dormant because they didn't really have people with the capacity that really believed that it could work. Because we are talking about providing electricity using private funds, bringing private investments into rural communities and partnering with government. And, previous, presidents, they didn't believe, they believed just expand the grid, and continue to expand the grid. But he believed that we would convince him, this was also a way for us to do as it's been done in other countries. And he allowed us, and we succeeded. But then there was something very interesting that Mr. Aremu mentioned that I would like to also latch on to. The fact that we do not celebrate the great ones amongst us when they are alive. And when they die, that's when you hear all sorts of encomiums and the likes. I think it's very, very important for young people to learn from his life, and how resilient he was throughout. This was somebody that was, military governor of Northeast. He was Minister of Petroleum. Then he became president. And when, the coup that removed him came, he was jailed for years. And then he became ostracized because they just abandoned him. Nobody wanted to go close to him. Of course, obviously for fear of the military at the time. But then later on, he came on, became PTF chairman. And then when the democracy came, he contested. The first time he lost, went up to Supreme Court. Second time, went up. So for those of us like me, I resigned to contest for governorship of my state. And I'm already telling people that it didn't work out. That's it for me. So with the life,
you want to do it 2-3 times.
But that's what it takes if you really want to serve. So this is a very clear example to you that if you're truly serious and determined about serving, you mustn't always be in government. But if you have the opportunity and your people want you, you should go for it. He wasn't going because of himself. I mean, even out of office, he was running various foundations, NGOs, and the likes. And this doesn't only apply to President Buhari. If you look at it from his friend and his partner, the current president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he also had a similar trajectory. There were times where he had to run away from this country because he was fighting the military, trying to entrench democracy and the likes. And then eventually he succeeded. He became governor of Lagos. The whole June 12th saga, they fought, and then he wanted to become president, but he knew he needed to support and partner and, galvanize support. And throughout almost 20 years, he was doing that, supporting Northerners in different ways to become president, supporting coalition, and eventually in 2015, supported President Muhammadu Buhari and became president. So, in 2015. So that's progressive nature that they both have. And the fact that, for your country, you need to sidestep your personal interest. Sometimes you need to compromise for the greater good. That's something young people need to learn from these leaders. And they've built on what, for instance, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is building on what President Buhari did. Buhari appointed a lot of young people, he gave them opportunities. This president is doing the same. Like Mr. Aremu said, the minimum wage was increased under Buhari, and then this president took it a notch up. So it also shows you that government is a continuum. We cannot say, and it's the same party anyways, it's a party of progressives. So as much as people tried for President Buhari to block President Tinubu from becoming president, you know, I was there, I was in the election committee of the party. I saw everything that happened. The president remained resolute and principled. It also shows us young people that once you are principled and you believe and you are convinced, you have that conviction that this is the right thing to do, people try to convince him, but he stayed clear, said he would allow whoever, the best person to win. Even within his party, he just needed to signal. He didn't even need to talk. He just needed to signal that this is who I want, and you see it will be implemented. The governors went, everybody went, they were trying to convince him, his kitchen cabinet, the cabal, everybody, but no, he didn't. He didn't flinch. Eventually, when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I heard a story someone was saying the other day, I think it was Garba Shehu, he said, he told him that President Buhari allowed him to win because he allowed a free and fair election. So that's also a lesson, you know, for the politicians and for young people coming up to learn. So I feel in this man there's a lot that we can all learn.
Festus, you know, from the reporter's perspective, you know, we have to ask you these questions. It was not seen to be too forthcoming, you know, in terms of every time you want to put a mic in his mouth to say something, he's a little bit more, you know, less, perhaps a bit withdrawn from that. He let, you know, the spokespeople speak, so some saw him as taciturn. Was it deliberate, but did he only want to speak when he thought it was necessary?
He was very... A lot of people see Buhari as being someone that is not sociable, but they didn't know so much about him. You know, towards the end of his administration, he kept saying something that people have told him to write a book, and he has decided not to write any book because he will abuse some people there. He will say some things that will not take us from where we are to where we want to be. Whenever there is a need for him to talk, he weighs the consequences of what will happen when he speaks. So sometimes he will just decide to allow people to talk. You know, when the spokesmen are talking, you could say, okay, they are doing their job. But when he is the one talking, he's the authority. Most times, he's very particular about having journalists around. And whenever you are doing your job, and you know the paraphernalia of office, they call it, those people, we call them overzealous. And you know, for those of us that are journalists, we are seen as muckrakers. They see us as people that never carry anything good news. So either the military or some people will try to block you not to do one thing. And he will just stand, he will just look at them and say, allow them do their job. They are doing their job. Sometimes he will just look at, okay, how come we are here and there is no journalist? So you just see somebody coming to say, where are the journalists? The president wants you. The president wants you. Now, the consequence...
Meanwhile, they had blocked you before.
They have blocked us before now. You just hear, the president said the place is not enough. The place is not big. But whenever he's there, he will say, hope the journalists are here. I want you to go and tell them that this and this and this is what we believe in, and this is what should be done. So he will naturally speak when he feels that he needs to drum it. But most times, you know, the kind of President Buhari is not the person you speak for if he's not the one speaking. So those spokesmen that were speaking for him, they actually hear from him, and they know there's what we call body language under Buhari. The body language is, he will not say too much. There was a day we were in APC secretariat, and they needed to do, I think it's a NEC meeting, but one of those their meetings. And there's this photographer that came trying to get his arrival shot, and you know, the next thing, a soldier just carried him like that, just trying to throw him away. The president just stopped, looked at the soldier, looked at his ADC, and continued. So we got the message that allow them do their job. He will naturally speak when he feels that there is a need for him to speak. And whenever you are with him, the message will come out. He will tell you, what did we use it for? Why is it this way? Why is it this way? But most of those things, because we look at it as off-the-record thing, so we don't naturally report some of all those things. I think what I would encourage my colleagues to be doing now is we should have something like, an NTA could even do it, the unreported part of presidents. Because most of the time what you see is the former, but we have some parts where they crack jokes, they say, go and say it the way I have said it. And no matter how they will feel, let people know that this is the position. So him not speaking is deliberate, so as you know what we call unintended effect. This is what the president is saying, and this is how people are interpreting it. The president could just say, where is Fisayo? The whole of the State House will shut down. And he wasn't really looking for you for any particular thing. He just looked around and said, oh, Fisayo is not here. And everybody will say, where is Fisayo? The president needs you, the president needs you. So that panic that you cause is why sometimes they don't really speak to everything, allowing the spokesman to speak. And when there is a need for correction, you see them talking about it. He could be talking about politics now, and he will bring something about the economy, because there is something about the economy in the past that was not properly reported, and he has his own mindset about how that thing should be. So you see him digressing a little to talk about that economy. So he spoke. Most times he spoke, but naturally as a president, he will only speak to those things that are very, very important at that particular time.
All right, I like the statement you mentioned. You said, Fisayo, I don't know whether I actually said that, because if you are just saying that now, that's not very good. Let's go to Dr. Korede, and you've been listening to our other panelists talking about the president. He ruled for 8 years as a civilian president. But those 2 years as a military head of state continue to resonate as well in terms of some of the reforms, he tried to bring into the Nigerian polity, so to speak. So cumulatively, he spent almost 10 years at the helm, supervising, things happening to Nigeria, within Nigeria for 8 years, in consecutive terms, and almost 2 years as a military head of state. That gave him perhaps the view from the top that many Nigerians, perhaps apart from maybe President Obasanjo, not many Nigerians would have had that opportunity of also changing, the attire from khaki to, civilian attire as well. That is a lot of experience in terms of leadership that we have just lost.
It sure was a lot of experience we lost. 9 years cumulatively, 7 months, and I think 28 days. Muhammadu Buhari held sway as #1 citizen, both in the military and the civilian, to expatiate on what you said. Leadership, as the case may be, has to do with the wisdom you have embedded in you and how you carry on with those wisdom, imparting them to those, your subordinates, in terms of your projects, your programs, and then policies. General Muhammadu Buhari, ex-president, was a man of high wisdom, high intellect. He's someone who, whenever he wants to talk about a particular subject, either he says it in a proverbial manner or it goes direct, as the case may be. My colleague spoke about body language. They spoke about how, the gentleman, Buhari, like to crack a little bit of jokes that you understand exactly where he's going to. He may decide not to go direct. In his days when he held sway as military, we saw, the various programs, and the popularity at the time that he got rubbed off on him, which gave him majority of support in Nigeria that made his winning the elections in 2015 and 2019, landslide, and not so easy, but landslide victories as they were. So we as Nigerians need to learn from this. Once you are a leader, go into yourself, ask the Almighty Creator for wisdom, speak with authority in a way that you will not be breathing down the throat of your subordinates, but get your body language, your words, few words that you say. Jokingly, I like to refer to what His Excellency, the immediate past Vice President of Nigeria, Professor Osinbajo, said that Mr. President Buhari, now late, was asked by his SA special advisor on media publicity, Mr. Additional, that, sir, I'm going to represent you at a book launch. What should I say to them that you've sent me to give to them? Baba said, oh, my dear, when you give them my salutations, smile at them, tell them, I have come to give them, I've sent you my smile, which is goodwill in every sense of it. It shows that this is a book launch. We appreciate what you're doing. Appreciate that you've invited me to this place. And my goodwill as a person shows that my smile says I'm with you positively. Everything doesn't have to be monetized. After all, since the office of Mr. President at the time approved that the President conveyed that the President will be there, now represented by his essay on media, it gives a lot of credibility to that event. So other businessmen can come and then dole out millions. The Mr. President at the time in his frugality will not do that and give money. The smile of President Muhammadu Buhari at the time in itself, you can take it to the bank at any event and people will come rushing in. The Dangotes of this world, the Samad, Rabi of this world, Jimovia of this world, will take a leaf from that. So his body language embedded in wisdom, his instructions embedded in wisdom, the way he communicates to his subordinates and to the nation is embedded in wisdom. This we need to learn from.
All right, thank you very much. Comrade Isarem, we're still there via Zoom. You said lastly earlier, maybe we should just allow you to give us your final words on this, on a day like this. I was just talking about the kind of experience that the nation has just lost in terms of leadership, in terms of somebody you can dial and ask about some critical situations in Nigeria, having superintended over key sectors of the nation's economy as Federal Commissioner of Petroleum, superintended over the Northeast as a state and then Borno State as well, and of course as two-time civilian president and military leader as well. What are your final thoughts as we get towards the program proper?
We'll keep on, coming out with series of reflections and thoughts. But my takeaway from all our discussions, and by the way, I want to thank you so much, the Anchorman, for creating platform. Let me appreciate NTA, for giving us the platform to really reflect on the life of our late president. I think the takeaway here is that contrary to the general cliche that, the problem of Nigeria is leadership, as we normally generalize, I think maybe it's also time for us to see that the problem is that we do not, or we refuse to appreciate leaders when they are alive. I think it's time for us. I think Chinua Achebe wrote that book. I have reviewed it, that the problem of Nigeria is leadership. Good thinking, but I've also qualified to say that maybe it's time for us to look critically and find out that we are not short of leaders, in this continent, not just in Nigeria. In fact, I've tried to equate the late President Muhammadu Buhari to the late Mandela of South Africa. That's Nelson Mandela in terms of selflessness. I mean, Mandela went to prison for 27 years. That's quite long, because he fought against apartheid. But President Buhari also paid his due. He was in prison, and despite the pain, he never forgot, but he has forgiven. He has moved on. He related very well, even those people who are his tormentors. I think that's one value we really take as a nation. Then look at the way we have itemized, his achievement. If you talk of the gas project, the KKK, I hope I got it right, of the longest gas project, that he initiated, almost about $20.8 billion, I think it's almost completed now. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is also consummating. I think it's time for us to recognize that we are not short of leaders. In spite of the challenges of nation building, and nation building is a work in progress. My friend from the villa who had covered the president, we realized that on 23rd of July, 2019, I led the delegation of Textile Union to visit him, to look for his support for revival of textile mill. And the intervention of our president has been so decisive, to make sure that we stabilize few factories that are remaining. I'm also appreciate President Bola Tinubu for now reviving the cotton and textile garment policy. I mean, that's the way to go. So leadership is about continuity. On the last note, I think Hijo, I hope I got your name, the former CEO of Rural Electrification Agency. Yes. Yeah, my very good friend. You are not the only one appointed by the president. Me too. He appointed me. I'm the first to become the Director General of Michael Imodu National Institute for Labor Studies. And it took me based on my reputation, on my performance. Garba Shehu confirmed this to me. He just said, no, President went through all the lists only for him to pick me because where is that?
Thank you very much, Comrade. I need to jump in a little bit because the First Lady has just arrived, Katsina.
Very well. I'm also watching it live. I would like to watch it live myself too.
All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Comrade Isaremu. We're just seeing live pictures at the Katsina International Airport. The First Lady has arrived. The airport just touched down, and she's been received by the Katsina State welcoming delegation there. They are, of course, the hosts, and she's also been received by some dignitaries, both from Katsina and some of the federal government delegation that had gone earlier today. Let's just leave you with live pictures coming up from the Katsina International Airport there as we take that in. So let's take the ambience live so that we'll come back and talk some more. First Lady Oluremi Tinubu arriving the Katsina International Airport. I understand it's called the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua International Airport there in Katsina State. She left earlier today ahead of President Bola Tinubu. We understand will also be touching down anytime from between 1:15 and 1:30, as we expect that the remains of the former late President Muhammadu Buhari will touch ground around 2 o'clock today, 2 p.m. So we're expecting that, according to the governor of Katsina State, Governor Rada, I said that they left about 8:15 this morning, talking about leaving the flight, taking the remains to Nigeria, left around 8:15. So we expect something between 6 hours to get to Nigeria. So we're looking at that and live pictures from Katsina, and that's the First Lady's delegation touching ground. That means that, of course, in no too distant time, the president too will be arriving as the chief mourner. As far as this event is concerned, is of course, it was handed over to by President Buhari, who was his predecessor. Let's now, reflect on some of the, comments of Comrade Isaremu, talking about, the life and times of former President Muhammadu Buhari. And let me thank Comrade Isaremu, and I like your parting shot that you also want to be watching on the NTA as we give you live pictures.
Let me just round up one or 2 points I wanted to do before I do the parting shot to watch. I was telling you that especially the one great legacy of the President Buhari on the labor sector, he was the first to make sure that Ministry of Labor has 2 ministers. This is the oldest ministry in Nigeria, established as far back as 1935, but has only been one minister. You know, labor is the most important factor of development, you know, so it was eternal glory. And I'm also happy President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has kept on to this trajectory that we have 2 ministers. And for me, it's total commitment, because I told you I was appointed as the DG of Michael Imodu. But that was also based on the recommendation of both Minister Ngige as well as Minister Kiamu that time, of course, with the then Secretary to Federal Government, you know. And I'm happy that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has also reappointed me, putting me to the sector in which it belonged to promote labor education. But that was to round up on the issue of textile. You know, my friend from the State House, you remember that he hosted Textile Union, the first president to really do so. You know, and he was committed to revival of textile industry. You know, highly labor intensive. You know, when textile was textile, I mean, Kakuri, Nasarawa, Bompai, Kano, of course, Lagos, you know, the entire Maitu, you know, Axis, they used to be textile, you know, Port Harcourt, Trans-Amadi, you know. He was so passionate to revive textile. In fact, President Buhari served on the board of the largest textile mill that time, UNTL, I guess Finetest too. So he was committed, and he hosted us that day. He gave directive we should, you know, consume what we produce, also wear what we produce locally. Again, I appreciate President Bola Ahmed for now continuing the same trajectory. I think government is a continuum, as Ahmed has already said, and I think we continue along this line, recognize our leaders, look at what they've done, consolidate on them. You know, we can then say that we are building a nation. And for the younger generation, this what we are doing today will be a lesson for them. That if you have a leader committed to discipline, who went to prison, he was a military leader, converted to be a Democrat, won election, you know, defeated an incumbent president, you know, former president also accepted. I'm talking of Jonathan, commendably. I mean, it shows that Nigeria is not short of leaders, and we can only build more. I mean, this is just my parting shot. You should allow me to also follow the deserved, you know, state, you know, burial of our former president. Again, kudos to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for keeping to this tradition and reciprocating the partnership of his predecessor. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Issa Aremu, for your intervention today. And on that textile note, we can say that the president have woven, he has been able to weave, you know, a culture of resilience, a culture of reliability, of integrity in service. Hopefully, the leaders of today in various sectors and in the different tiers of government will take up the needle and continue to weave the fabric of endurance, fidelity, and progress to their people while not getting close to the pot or the till as far as government coffers are concerned. And he has been able to demonstrate that. You want to make a response?
Yes, he did not just weave, you know, those wonderful adjectives to use to the textile. He actually approved 100 billion naira to revive the textile industry. In the agricultural sector, in the first instance, the first 100 billion, Anchor Borrowers Program, a lot of farmers benefited. In the SME sector, to revive entrepreneurship and small businesses, NISA, Microfinance Bank, through the CBN, was established, and billions of naira were approved by then President Muhammadu Buhari. The textile industry, the agricultural, agro-allied sector was supported. Entrepreneurship was supported with practical funds. People benefited, but there are hues and cries about a lot that did not benefit. What happened? Mr. President Buhari, now late, did his best to give approval. The people who were in charge did what they did. There's retribution. There is karma. Because this country belongs to all of us. We must allow integrity to guide us. When we are patriotic and we are given responsibilities, we do that accordingly as directed. and we don't allow corruption to rule us.
Before I go to, Ms. Oriere, who was an appointee, I need to stay with you a little. Why do we, continue to look at him as maybe some kind of outlier in terms of administrative integrity? Are we saying there are fewer people like him now in government, or is it our leadership process? How do we perhaps throw up people who don't attach too much importance to personal gains, personal aggrandizement, personal fulfillment, or stomach infrastructure, as some past governors spoke about, in this era, to be able to bring prudence, and responsibility in the positive sense into governance?
It is quite unfortunate that the society, has not been given orientation in terms of our national values. We know what to do as a nation. Personally, and a majority of people also do, giving honor to Professor Jerry Garner, who at the time when he held sway in terms of our national orientation, said, if you're a tailor, sew well. If you're a policeman, police well. Be responsible at what you're doing. So I'd always say, you need to catch us young in terms of our mind and outlook towards governance, towards responsibilities. Our national values has to be orientated in us and reorientated to the grassroots. Excuse me. It is not enough to go on television, produce or radio, and produce contents in Queen's English. How about in our native languages? Our national values of patriotism, integrity, nation building. When we do all this, after all, we need to wash ourselves gradually. It is in the washing gradually that we become clean gradually. Until when a majority of us imbibe such posture of integrity, posture of patriotism, and the mindset of nation building, that is when gradually and definitely so, Nigerians and those who are given responsibilities will begin to do the right thing, rather than try to corner public funds.
All right, Dr. Sanusi, in terms of concepts, he was clear in his mission. 3 mission security, was talking about, corruption, anti-corruption and all that. And in terms of concept and actuality, what was the challenge? You were the people to make sure that his ideas found quick fruition. Was there any challenge in terms of implementation of those ideas, or was he swimming against the tide of corruption when he came in?
Yes, he was swimming against the tide, to be honest, because from what Doctor had hinted earlier, it was his job to have that vision for the country. But of course, he's not going to divide himself into 1,000 people that will help him implement. I'm talking of government now. It was also his job to get the right people in place. But I think he had a bit of a weakness as well, because he's fallible, he's human, he's not infallible. So if he has given you responsibility, for those that had capacity and they were honest and they were patriots as well, they would deliver to the fullest, and then you can see impact. For us in REA, we took what he gave us, the vision, and we implemented, and that was why you see we could attract, credibility to attract funds from World Bank, African Development Bank, and the likes from private sector, and we're able to, decentralize power, to rural communities. But in other sectors, you see, he gave them the opportunity, but perhaps they were only looking at their own interest. And in that case, unless there's a strong case against you, which the people, that are seeing what's happening, were meant to also build on, reports if they see anything like that, so that he can take action. And that's why the Central Result Delivery and Coordination Unit headed by Hadiza Balana is very important, because although it started under Buhari, but right now, because of the nature of the person heading it, there is more of monitoring of what's going on, which is very important. So if you had a president like Buhari that would trust you, in Hausa they say amana, so go and do it. Whatever happens, it is your name that is at stake. I think now we now have a president that is more hands-on, that will not just give you a responsibility, but he will be there also to try and micromanage and, bring people to help him and give him first-hand information, based on facts of what you're doing and if you're doing it right and what the issues are and how he can debottleneck and, help you succeed. So that's also building on what we've said earlier, that government is a continuum. If we notice that, okay, this was a bit of a, there was a lag, in some areas. Now we have a president that is trying to build on it, So that's that for that. But he made a lot of headway in terms of these 3 thematic areas that you've mentioned, especially in security and in the area of infrastructure. It was under him that the Ministry of Works first got a lot of money. I think in the first year they got over 400 billion. Before then, you see, under the previous PDP government, you see a whole Ministry of Works is just getting 16 billion, 20 billion to do infrastructure. But then he increased the size of budget, which is commensurate to the challenge that we had in terms of infrastructure. Road, for instance, under Ministry of Works, although it was Works, Power Works and Housing then. So, of course, the budget was, sort of increased so that they can achieve more. And because of the nature of appointees he also had, someone like Fashola was in charge. You could see very clear vision and very deliberate strategy to implement and, gradually increase and make the infrastructure available, for Nigerians. So, yeah, I think he made quite an inroad, an impact, which, of course, our president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is building on because he had a president that had laid that foundation, and they know what the country needs. They know the kind of infrastructure that we need to put in place to open up the space, to open up the economy for small and medium enterprises as well to be able to go about their businesses, efficiently and effectively.
In terms of, his governance style, was he able to separate his administration from party politics? In terms of, you reported him. How much interaction did he have with politicians after his election and in 2019 re-election? Was it still, was it a kind of strategist, or did he face governance squarely, or did he still have the appendages of, party men who will keep on streaming in, as we have seen in many administrations, in the past as well?
Yeah, thank you very much. Before I go into that, I would want to build on what our comrade Issa Remu said and what Dr. here said about our value system and how we got here. I recently, one thing is when you're informed, you later realize that this thing we say about leadership being the problem of Nigeria is not so. Our value system, you know how it is in those days, the taste by moonlight of NTA and some other programs that we're having, was to shaping us into what we're supposed to be. But these days, with the introduction of private broadcasting, which is supposed to be a plus, some things these days are now being promoted that is now affecting governance generally as it is. So that is a problem. If we want this country to be better, we have to look at the followership. My brother was telling you how after he gives instruction, some people that have a different value system will go do whatever they want to do because they believe that it is my turn to shine. There was a situation I'll give to you. This very house they are showing is residence in Daura. We went to Daura and we were just waiting, and his classmates came to see him, and he came outside to meet them. Definitely they had all their demands. They wanted him to do 1 or 2 magic because for them they believe that now that you're in power, it's our turn to get our own share of the national cake, as we refer to it. And he told them that, okay, I have heard what you said. We tried to ask my ministers and look at what we can do for you. But in a case, I'm not able to do all of them, and you are not very happy with me. Remember that I have a house like this in Kaduna where I can go and stay. So in case you want to chase me out of Daura, I have a place to go and stay, and we all laughed about it. Now, going straight to the question that you asked about him separating party politics from governance. Buhari was someone that, for some people, before they go to him, they know what the answer would be. There are sometimes that somebody will just enter from where we stay as State House correspondents, just a few distance to his office. And in less than 5-10 minutes, you will see the person coming back. We'll just say, oh, is it possible that this man did not meet with him? And when you ask the man what happened, he said, okay, this was what the president told me. In some cases, he will just say, go and settle your family problem before you bring it here. If you can do that one, this one will be okay. In some cases, he will say, okay, you belong to me, you belong to me. Can we just be brothers first before we look at politics? So he knew what to do at a particular time. But you know, the thing about what is and what ought to be is why Nigerians, some I would say now, because even those that know, they say less. Some Nigerians have a picture of him and they believe that he is somebody that did not have a godfather. So there was so much expectation on what they expected President Buhari to do when he was the #1 man in the country. So when those things were not coming, a few people were disappointed because they don't know the dynamics of leadership from when the instruction is given to those that will eventually implement it. But when it comes to governance, like you mentioned something about the party politics under him. He knew what to do. There was not so much chaos and problem. Under him, you didn't have some of all these going to court here, going to court there, because he knew exactly what to, oh yeah, you come, let us have NEC. Let us have a caucus meeting. He will call the National Assembly caucus, call the Senate caucus. So yeah, let us meet. Let's settle some of all those things. So before they go to the NEC meeting, he knew you want this, you want that, but you can't get all these ones. What we'll do is that let us reach a consensus here. So by the time we go to the NEC meeting, which will drive the political aspect of governance, he would have had an agreement and he was able to do very well in that area. So Buhari is somebody that knew all that. But which I also say every time, politicians take communication for granted. They believe that once you get the politics right, every other thing will work. But if your policies, if your decisions at the political level is not well communicated to the grassroots, you have this information gap that will now give room for people to speculate and some other things. As a president, he did so well. It now lies on those that take instructions from him, like our brother here, to do what they are supposed to do and not want to enrich themselves. So he separated politics from governance and he was able to do it effectively.
Thank you so much. And world leaders have been paying glowing tributes to former President Muhammadu Buhari, who died in London at the age of 82. Charles Alpha compiled some of the outpouring condolences from within and outside the country. But before we go to Charles Alpha, we will, once it's ready with the condolences from around the world, let me take one or two words, of course, from some of our guests here as well. Dr. Korede, you listened to Festus Fifen telling us about some of the memories when he was working with the president. But this time, I want us to look at this Fourth Republic. And in terms of our politics, we've seen different presidents with different styles. And in terms of President Muhammadu Buhari, what he brought on. But let's quickly take the Minister of Agric very quickly. He has touched down with other ministers.
Very, very exemplary life. Somebody who is honest.
All right, we will rejoin that signal. Of course, it's the airport. I'm sure there will be so many signals at the same time. It's live, so we'll try and get Man Suleiman Konongi and the other correspondent, Abdullahi Mustafa, as they walk around the landing points, talking about the airport as well as the helipad, to tell us what is happening over there. But once that happens, we'll take you back to them. We're talking about, the Fourth Republic and, what we have been seeing in terms of leadership and different, presidents and their style. In terms of President Buhari, the issue of being parsimonious with funds, being frugal, being responsible, continues to resonate. But can we say, in terms of, people copying the style of a leader, has he been able to percolate to state governors, to local government chairmen, or was he just, one of an outlier, just one person who tried to do something, and perhaps it was not particularly, something that people wanted to emulate?
My response brings me to his most popular statement at his inauguration, 2015, Eagle Square. I belong to everyone, and I belong to nobody. Muhammadu Buhari was a lone leader. He was a lone integrous man. Muhammadu Buhari was a lone achiever. He, with his integrity, will come out with policies and programs and hand it over to heads of sectors and subsectors and expect you to go ahead and do that. He will give support to states and expect state governors to do, the right thing. Even let's rewind back a little bit to when he was the military head of state. He reposed so much trust in his second in command, the late General Babatunde Idiamo, and the man, performed assiduously, never disappointed. That is the kind of Buhari, a person, a leader, a patriot that we knew. Somebody who will assimilate and come up with good ideas, programs and policies, and then delegate responsibilities. Yes, we had quite a number of governors, very minimal though, who learned, who copied, from him. But the vast majority did not. Quite unfortunate. We're talking about Fourth Republic. Currently, as we speak, in this administration of His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR, states are being supported in terms of increase in allocation to states. Local governments are having their funds directly. It's to say to them that development in the grassroots, that ought to start from the grassroots. I have given you the key and the means to go ahead and develop your local government, develop your states. If you do it, kudos to you. If you do not, posterity will judge you. Whilst the current government is also putting together various programs and projects nationwide at the national level that will bring together the connectivity of states in Nigeria. Muhammadu Buhari was described as a silent achiever by one of our leaders. I don't want to mention that name on television. Yes, he was. Nobody knew that, he had actually achieved and, commissioned, brought to the fore, over 80 capital projects, 20 of which in the education sector. Universities, new ones established, completed. Polytechnics, established. Federal College of Education, bridges, roads. I have a list that I came with, but for want of time, we may not be able to, go through it. But it's available in the space. And if you like, I can reel out. And this project cuts across Nigeria, as achieved by Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, our president. He delegated responsibilities and expected those under him to do same. Whatever they
did. Did they take advantage of that trust? Was it?
Well, by my own assertion, by what I saw, quite a few of them, took advantage, of that trust. I give you an example of, because I was a consultant who was an enterprise development consultant who trained those that were supposed to be empowered with SME funds. We trained over 1,000 people across about 6 states in Nigeria. People came willingly to be trained, and they advanced their requests to the respective microfinance bank. Over 90% of them were disappointed, whereas funds were approved, for that effect, under that same watch. So whoever did whatever they did at the time, posterity will judge them. But currently, as we speak in this administration, there are checks and balances, and nobody will take from the government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR, I will not deliver. You will deliver.
Oh, all right. Doctor, you have, seen the issue of, moving, from policy programs to actuality. What exactly is the challenge? And this is not about President Buhari alone. In terms of, presidents in the past, we almost have every area, every gamut of governance and policy to drive the country from where it is to El Dorado, all in white and black. What exactly is the challenge in terms of, government being able to pull through in terms of delivering from concepts to actuality?
Okay, so if you wanted to, put percentages to it in terms of, what percentage policy should, have.
Because you see a document, it's a beautiful.
Yes.
Then,
so if no matter how beautiful the document is, for you to implement, it's only going to be, for policy, it's only going to be 20% of the journey. Implementation takes 80%. Because that's where the real work is and the impact. So you have beautiful policies.
Just as Dr. Sanusi is talking, we are showing you live pictures of the from the Umar Musa Yar'Adua International Airport, where the president is being awaited. In any moment from now, the president will be touching down and then inspecting the guard of honor right there, as you can see them, already standing and awaiting the arrival of the president. Continue, please, Dr. Sanusi.
So it's a process. So, for instance, when you start the process, the policy is approved, and based on that policy, you develop projects, to be implemented. You go to the president, you get approval, and by getting approval, these projects are now inserted in the budget. The whole process of even getting the budget approved, sometimes you put projects and you emanate projects from the executive side. It goes to National Assembly. The process of reviewing the budget, trying to, you see, they remove some of these projects, and then they put their own. But then after that, when you want to implement, you need to have cash backing, before you can start, awarding. The process of procurement is also long. Needs to be streamlined. It takes a few months, maybe 6 months, before you are able to get to the last mile. So sometimes you need to be efficient, but also you can, no matter how efficient you are, you can only move as much as the system allows you to move. Sometimes it's not just about the president approving. It's also not about the head of the agency having the technical know-how and capacity. It's also about other stakeholders and how they embrace that. That's why sometimes you see if the president has a pet project or is interested in something, then it can be protected through. However, most of the times, going through all of these processes, becomes a challenge. For us then at the Rural Electrification Agency, we were lucky because power was on the front burner and everybody wanted power. So the kind of challenge we had was a bit different because a lot of people were jostling for projects in their communities, which is good, right? Which is good. We got the support that we needed from the president, and as an administrator, one of the things you learn is for you to be able to manage various stakeholders, from those in the rural communities that would write to you and say, please, we do not have electricity, or we have a problem with our transformers, or we need solar renewable energy there, to the traditional rulers that would also visit you on behalf of their people, to the elected representatives, from councillors to chairmen, to House of Assembly members, to House of Rep members, to senators, to other cabinet members. Everybody wants electricity in their community. So we had to grapple with managing all of these stakeholders and their expectations, because of course we do not have unlimited budgets, and then we had a strategy of facing and prioritizing these areas. And then we also had programs that the president was interested in directly for education. For instance, the Energizing Education program was the brainchild of Mr. President, because he always got monthly bills, which were high for universities, and he was like, why do we need to keep paying this much, for power in our universities? Why can't we have like independent power plants in universities? And that was how that program was engendered. And then we also had for markets. He wanted to catalyze the economy, so we had energizing, economies. So most markets like Ariaria market, a couple of other markets, Ipori market in Lagos, and a couple more, we provided power, independent power, solutions to them, directly. And right now they have moved, further to not just doing rural communities or semi-urban areas, or even universities. We do hospitals, or we did hospitals back then, and they're still doing that now. And now they've even moved to, various public institutions because of the same reason, just spending a lot of money, paying for power. So now they are building independent power solutions, for them. So this is just how government should continue. But there are a lot of challenges involved in public service. People do not see it from outside. So even if the president has the best of intentions, the person at the helm of affairs could either help him achieve this or just help him cause more problems and more enemies. Because depending on your personality, you might not be able to manage all of these stakeholders, right, the way you are meant to, because of your personality. But if you have the right mien and the right personality, you understand that these are processes and these are interests and these are stakeholders. You are able to manage it so that you help the president to achieve and succeed in what,
All right, we're just looking at live pictures at the Umar Musa Yar'Adua International Airport, awaiting the arrival of Mr. President. And we saw some pictures there, which, gives credence to what First Officer was saying before, talking about military men and security operatives blocking cameramen from going close to somebody. I wanted to say that if I had the ear of that cameraman, I would have said that if the security man says that we are waiting for Mr. President, we'll say, yeah, it doesn't belong to you, it belongs to nobody. And then if you say, why are you doing this, it belongs to everybody. Anyway, that has been, his style, and, we naturally, of course, been accorded the full military respect, being the former commander-in-chief, and then, of course, being the former military man, and we understand in military parlance that once you're a general, you're always a general, and you are an asset until you die. You can be called upon for one thing or the other in the theater to render assistance. We are still seeing some VIPs talking about the arrival of the governor of Imo State, Senator Opus Odima, the governor of Cross River State as well, there in that shot as state governors continue to arrive Katsina for the state burial given to the former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, who died at the age of 82. You're still watching live pictures, courtesy of the Nigerian Television Authority, Africa's finest and largest. We continue to, give you live pictures as the event continues to unfold and as Nigerians await the remains of the dearly departed President Muhammadu Buhari, who served Nigeria in different capacities, not just as head of state and as president, but also as a minister, as chairman trust fund, as governor of Borno State, as different commander at different regiments as well, and always known as someone who stood stoically against insecurity, and in many instances was able to vanquish Nigeria's enemies as well. So as we await his remains, we continue to reflect on his life and times, his life of service to Nigeria and Nigerians. We continue to reflect on that as well. I'll bring in I'll bring in my guests for some comments as I ask, first of all, if I just brought into your attention the issue of, access, getting access to the right pictures, the right stories, and all that. Did you in your interaction with the president, covering him, perhaps in some times of key events in Nigeria, especially those that were, brought in some tension, how did he handle them? When maybe the nation could panic in terms of some issues, perhaps insecurity, perhaps COVID, like Comrade Aremo alluded to. How did he handle some of those things, especially in his public outings with your, press call?
Thank you very much. My brother said, one thing is for the president to be aware and to give instruction. Another thing is for the foot soldiers to implement whatever the president has said. Now, what I have observed from covering presidents is that the way we are here, we are all particular about the agency or the interest that we represent. So when we go out or when there is anything, everybody tells you my own is the most important. I'm a journalist, I'm a communication person. I believe that everything you do here, if it's not well communicated, there is a problem. The man that is in charge of security believes that if there's no security, there's breakdown of law and order, there is a problem. Now, you have things like that. Talking about COVID, for example, the president will naturally ask questions. And whenever you have interactions, maybe he's talking to a doctor now, for example, and he will tell you that, doctor, before I called you here, I asked, this COVID that we have, who are those that can give us results? They will assemble them. They will meet with them. Most of those meetings behind closed doors, we are not part of it. But when they come out, somebody will definitely tell you this and this is what we discuss. And he will give a matching order. Please make sure that Nigerians are safe. Make sure that this interest is covered. It's now left for you people to take it from there. And sometimes there have been some very funny decisions. I give you, for example, the one that Comrade Issa Aremu referred to, the day the president conferred on the late MKO Abiola, GCFR, and turned June 12 to Democracy Day away from May 29. Around 5 p.m. or to 6 around in the evening, we were in the press gallery, and there was a tweet, as it were, that June 12 is not Democracy Day. The president is recognizing Abiola as the winner of June 12. Now, we were all saying, oh, the president account has been cloned. We don't know where this is coming from. To make the thing look funny, those that were responsible for giving us press statements, those that we expected from, one of them just walked into the press gallery and said, this thing that we are seeing, is it true? What is happening? At the end, we realized that it was the president that personally signed that statement without passing through anybody, and he tweeted it through his assistant on social media then, Bashir, directly. So maybe in his own mindset, he said, okay, this is a serious matter. Instead of me to pass it through those that will make other question the motive behind it, to say, oh, this is the right thing, this is not the right thing, I'll do it myself. And that was it. So when there are critical decisions to be taken, for those that describe that the president leads from the front, that's exactly what he would do. You will just see him say, okay, this is what we want to do, this is how it should be done, and this is the way I feel it should be done. And he will hand it over to those that will drive the process. And for those that know him, if the chain of command is not too far as you are close to that perimeter of the president, you don't have a choice than to implement everything. So as journalists, most times, we see situations where the decision of the president will make some people uncomfortable. Funny enough, two of them are late now. The late Abba Kyari, chief of staff. There was a day there was a fake meeting, and it was for 10 a.m. By 9:50 or thereabout, we were waiting for the president to come in, the usual ritual of, all rise, Mr. President. The chief of staff was not in yet, because maybe 2 minutes to the chief of staff will naturally come for the meeting to start by 10. And 9:55, the president was inside. The president came, the national anthem and some other things. Now we were asked to excuse. By that time, the doors have been shut. So when we came out for them to have their normal fake closed door section, by our side was the chief of staff. And he jokingly, that's later Bakiari, I jokingly said, who has brought this man now? It's not yet 10 a.m. How do you people want me to survive? And somebody whispered, okay, there is a door. You just go inside as if you went to the restroom before this man came. So the president was that deliberate about his timing. He was deliberate about his decision. And it was with him, you know that 10 a.m. is 10 a.m., 2 p.m. is 2 p.m. It's either you are in or you are out. Several times he's been able to do that. So when it comes to decisions that have to do with nation building, he would naturally do his part. But what we have also realized, when President Jonathan was to leave towards the last days after he called President Buhari to congratulate him, and he said, finally, I can leave this cage now. So we realized that it's not every of this information that gets to the president. Some information managers, those around him, will make sure that some information don't get to him. So when President Buhari was saying, I am not aware, some people were laughing. The truth is that some things can happen that he will not be aware. But whenever he is aware, and if it becomes something that is very, very important, he would act decisively and the right decisions will be taken.
All right, we're still awaiting, of course, the president's president to touch down at the Umar Musa Yar'Adua International Airport in Katsina, and you can see the guard of honor and the red carpet there just by the at the airport. We're just waiting for that as well. Very shortly, we will also, of course, be in Daura as well, and we'll be taking interviews from there as well. Earlier, we saw the arrival of ministers, federal government's delegation. Of course, the First Lady has also touched down, and governors from different parts of the country. And the last to come in just now has been Governor Uzodimma and Governor Basietu from Cross River State as well. I've been seeing, earlier we saw the governor of Ogun State as well, and Governor Sanwo-Olu of Lagos, all touching down. Of course, the host is Governor Rada of Katsina, who has been on the virtually been on the tarmac since for about 2 hours now, welcoming his colleagues and dignitaries from different parts of the country and different parts of Africa as well, to bid the former president, the late former president, a befitting farewell. So we're giving you live pictures, as you can see. We've been talking about the life and times of late President Muhammadu Buhari, his legacies, both political and military, and talking about, of course, what that means for the Nigeria today and the Nigeria tomorrow. And talking about some of his, military exploits as well. Many have said, of course, I was quite young at the time, but the quelling of several insurgents and several criminal elements, especially when he was governor of Northeastern State as well as governor of Borno, continues to resonate with many people in terms of how decisive he was in crushing that at that time.
You cannot take that away from him. He was a dogged soldier. He was a military officer par excellence. He was a commander who commands men.